green
Today
investments, renewable
I
energy।
am going to
इसमें
आज मैं एक कोर्स पढ़ने लगा हूँ।
सबसे पहले कोर्स है रिन्यूएबल एनर्जी में जो इन्वेस्टमेंट है जो रिन्यूएबल एनर्जी की पॉलिसीज है।
रिन्यूएबल
पहला
एनर्जी
चैप्टर होगा इन्वेस्टमेंट इन रिन्यूएबल एनर्जी, उसके बाद गवर्नमेंट पॉलिसीज का क्या रोल है
कोर्स है
और जो रिन्यूएबल एनर्जी की जो फाइनेंसिंग है उसके सोर्सेज क्या है।
पहला चैप्टर होगा
इसके तीन लर्निंग ऑब्जेक्टिव्स हैं।
रिन्यूएबल एनर्जी
सबसे पहले जो रिन्यूएबल एनर्जी की इन्वेस्टमेंट है और जो रिन्यूएबल एनर्जी की जो फाइनेंसिंग है उसके सोर्सेज क्या है, फाइनेंशियल पॉलिसीज है गवर्नमेंट की बारे जो तीन लर्निंग ऑब्जेक्टिव्स हैं। सबसे पहले जो रिन्यूएबल एनर्जी की इन्वेस्टमेंट है उसको अच्छी तरह से आगे बढ़ाया जाएगा। उसके बाद जो फाइनेंशियल पॉलिसी है गवर्नमेंट के बारे गवर्नमेंट की तरफ से जो कि प्राइवेट इन्वेस्टमेंट को बढ़ाने के लिए उनको पढ़ाएंगे। फिर पब्लिक और प्राइवेट सोर्सेज है गवर्नमेंट एनर्जी फाइनेंसिंग है। इसको मैं शुरू करता हूँ कोर्स को पढ़ाया जाएगा। इसको शुरू करते हैं। सबसे पहले इन्वेस्टमेंट इन रिन्यूएबल एनर्जी जो है इसको मैं शुरू करता हूँ कोर्स को। डिस्क्रिप्शन में लिखा हुआ है कि जब लोकल इन्वेस्टमेंट इन रिन्यूएबल एनर्जी तो उसको डिस्कस करेंगे, एनर्जी डेवलपमेंट को करेंगे और ट्रांसक्रिप्ट है। डिस्क्रिप्शन में लिखा हुआ है कि जब लोकल इन्वेस्टमेंट इन रिन्यूएबल एनर्जी तो उसको डिस्कस करेंगे, एनर्जी डेवलपमेंट को करेंगे और ट्रांसक्रिप्ट है।
Hello, this is a course Investments in Renewable Energy. This course consists of 3 units. Unit 1
मैं इसकी वीडियो देख लेता हूँ।
will show you trends of renewable energy. Now, Unit 2 will show you some of the policy measures which can help to promote private investments. And Unit 3 will show you where private investments are coming from. Unit 2 will show you some of the policy measures which can help. This course was mainly developed based on the chapter Implications of Fiscal and Financial Policies on Unlocking Green Finance and Green Investment. This chapter is published in the ADBI book, Handbook of Green Finance, Energy Security and Sustainable Development. However, free access to this paper is available using the link below. This chapter is published in the ADBI book, Handbook of Green Finance, called Green Investments in Renewable Energy. Why did we call this that way? Because we specify that in this course we will cover only renewable energy. However, green investments include more, for example, it includes climate change mitigation, because we specify that in this course we will cover also energy efficiency. However, green investments include more, for example, it includes climate change mitigation, which also includes renewable energy. So that's why we specify that in this course we only focus on investments in transportation energy. And so on also includes clean change adaptation. So that's why we specify that in this course we only focus on investments in renewable energy and also about private investments in renewable energy. Unit 1, Investments in Renewable Energy. In this unit, we will learn about global trends, investments in renewable energy, and also in order to limit global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius and to prevent catastrophic climate change report notes the importance of analyzing green finance in order to limit global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius and to prevent catastrophic climate change. So, for example, to fully implement the Paris Agreement, according to meet this climate target, Framework Convention on we will require approximately $1.5 trillion in green financing annually till 2030. According to the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. So let's see where we are now in investments in renewable energy. Again, I highlight this picture which shows investments in renewable energy and not total green investments. Total green investments would be larger. So we can see that the numbers were around approximately $300 billion and as I said, we need approximately $1.5 trillion in green investments.
ये डाटा 2013 से 2018 तक
So from here we can see that major part of investment was invested in solar and wind. and less would be the rest biomass and waste more hydro, biofuel
सबसे
and
ज़्यादा सोलर
geothermal.
पे है ये इन्वेस्टमेंट
I would like
1349
to point at this picture
मैं फिर से जरा थोड़ा क्लियर कर लूँ बड़ा करने के लिए ताकि
included here small hydro.
मैं अच्छे से देख पाऊँ पहला वीडियो नजर नहीं आ रहा था
Then solar and wind are the two top technologies in attracting investments in renewable energy.
सबसे ज़्यादा सोलर पे है ये इन्वेस्टमेंट
Solar and
1349
wind are two technologies which attract most investments
$million.
in renewable energy. Let's see how investments evolved over years. We can see that both renewable energy investments in solar and wind are growing as years go. However, again, we don't see a sharp increase in investments. Now let's see which regions invested mostly in wind and solar. From these two graphs we can see that over recent years, mostly investments in wind and solar both were dominated by Asia. This is probably because of China. Asia is followed by Europe and North America in both wind and solar.
Now let's see which regions invested mostly in wind and
In the
solar.
previous slides, we noticed that investments in renewable energy are dominated by solar and wind, and investments in solar and wind are growing, especially in Asia. So now let's see how meaningful these investments overall are. They large or small? We can see this on example as a share of electricity generation. So if you look at the share of renewable energy electricity generation from all sources, renewable and non-renewable, so we can see on this graph that figures don't grow higher than 4.5%. So all the values of generation, let's say from wind, from solar, they're all very small. So for example, we can see in 2013, generation from wind was around below 3% of electricity generation. So although investments grew in solar and wind, we can notice that still electricity generation from solar and wind are still quite small numbers, and we also can see that they are growing. You might ask why we didn't see sharp increase of investments in solar and wind. So how come we see a sharp increase in generation electricity? One of the reasons could be that the cost of renewable energy, especially solar and wind, declining. So the cost declining, so the same investments allows to ensure more capacity of wind and solar. So this could be the reason for increase. And we could be happy that the solar and wind generation both increasing. However, the numbers of which they increasing are very small. So there is a sharp increase, but the starting numbers from where they started to increase were very small.
The reason for increase. And we could be happy that the solar and wind generation both increasing. However, the numbers from which
so as I said, the small numbers you can observe on the vertical axis,
there is a sharp
highlighted in red.
But
you can see
the numbers,
that the starting numbers
from where we started is very small.
If we look at global investments in overall energy, not just renewable energy, how much is invested in fossil fuels and renewables, nuclear,
so as I said, the small
networks,
numbers
we can see that
on the
investments in energy supply are still dominated by fossil fuel, unfortunately. So we can see that renewable energy
if you look at
growing, so the gray columns are growing. However, it's still dominated by fossil fuels investments. We can also notice that overall investments in energy supply are in decline since 2014. You can see this investments overall going down. Now let's move to the second part of Unit 1, private investments in renewable energy. So private investments in renewable energy are important because the demand for investments in renewable energy cannot be satisfied by only government investments. Let's see private investments in renewable energy in some selected countries, across countries. In order to make it measurable and comparable across countries, we express private investment in renewable energy as a share in total investments. So that will allow us to compare countries because some economies are larger, some are smaller. So expressing all investments in percentage make them more comparable. Those countries which got higher dots means that private participation is higher. Such countries with higher participation of private investments in renewable energy, so means private sectors are more involved in investments in renewable energy, include United Kingdom, Spain, Italy, Germany, Brazil, Japan. Now let's see private participation in investments in renewable energy across different energy sources. So here in this figure we show across 6 energy technologies: biofuel, geothermal, hydro. I didn't note that this is small hydro, ocean, solar, and wind. We can see that private participation in solar and wind investments are very high. This is probably because cost of solar and wind was falling significantly. We can see that again private investments in renewable technologies, solar and wind, are particularly high. So solar and wind attract private investments, attract more private investments than other technologies. To summarize, 2 technologies, solar and wind, are good at attracting private investments. Let's look at the cost of technologies in order to understand why some technologies attract private investments. So this figure shows the cost of energy by renewable energy source.
सबसे ज्यादा सोलर और विंड में प्राइवेट इन्वेस्टमेंट
and we can see
बायोफ्यूल
technologies cost particularly was falling down recently, solar and wind.
why some technologies are better at
Solar and wind, 2 technologies which were particularly good at attracting private investments, and also cost was falling down over recent years. Unlike solar and wind, another technology, wave and tidal, also called marine sometimes, marine power, the cost is still quite high. Technology is still immature.
टाइटल की वैल्यू है जबकि सबकी बढ़िया और कम हुई है लेकिन सोलर की और विंड की तेजी से कम हुई है
Ideas for developing Asia and Pacific.
The cost is still quite high, which means that technology is still immature and it was not successful at attracting private investments.
अब मैं शुरू करने लगा हूँ इसका सेकंड
Ideas for developing Asia and Pacific
रोल ऑफ गवर्नमेंट पॉलिसीज
ATP
गवर्नमेंट की
Institute
पॉलिसी है और जो गवर्नमेंट की पॉलिसी से इम्पैक्ट पड़ता है प्राइवेट इन्वेस्टमेंट का वो सेकंड पॉइंट मैं ये देखता हूँ
55% complete हो गया
For renewable energies, and also we will measure impact of such policies on. We are moving to the next unit, unit number 2, the role of government policies. In this unit, we will learn government policies for renewable energies, and also we will measure impact of such policies on attracting private investment. Why is this important? Because government policies are costly, and of course we need to measure the effectiveness, how effective they are in attracting private investments.
प्राइवेट इन्वेस्टमेंट कैसे अट्रैक्ट करते हैं
Let's first understand why we need government support for renewable energy investments in the first place. So the need for government support for investments in renewable energy is often justified by the existence of barriers and by positive externalities. So barriers to investments in renewable energy usually include subsidies to electricity,
generated from fossil fuels, for example, high initial capital costs, lack of skills, and uncertainties. Policies targeted to promote investment in renewable energy usually aim to reduce these barriers. So how successfully these policy measures will reduce barriers will define the effectiveness of these policies. Positive externalities of renewable energy include reduction of pollution, cleaner air, greater energy access, also diversification of energy sources, which also improves energy security. So the presence of positive externalities means that without government intervention, less renewable energy will be produced, and in the market will be less renewable energy. So that's why we justify the need for government support, and government measures can increase private investments in renewable energy. So let's see now how government can support private investments in renewable energy. There are a variety of measures exist, and IEA, IRENA, Global Renewable Energy Policies and Measures Database divided them into 6 groups. So, for example, economic measures include government direct investments, which include procurement, fiscal measures, which include, for example, tax relief, financial, which includes, let's say, loans, certificates, which include white, green certificates. The next group of measures, information and education. These include information provision, such as websites, and performance label, for example, labeling technologies. Policy support includes, for example, institutional creation, when government creates new institutions, and also strategic planning, for example, when government can produce a plan till, let's say, 2030 with certain goals for renewable energy. Regulations include auditing, codes and standards, also research, development and demonstration, so that government investments, expenditure on research, on development and on demonstration. And there are also voluntary measures which are not compulsory, but we take in voluntary. Now, if we look at the policy measures which were adopted by countries for, let's say, for solar technologies, for wind technologies, and overall for renewable energy technologies, so we can see from economical instruments, measures, 4 instruments are very popular. These include feed-in tariffs, grants and subsidies, loans, and tax relief. Tax relief and taxes. So these 4 measures are of particular interest because they were very popular. So to measure the effectiveness of policy measures, I selected here 4 policy measures.
चार जो पॉलिसी है वो सबसे ज़्यादा अफेक्ट करती हैं, जो कि फीड-इन टैरिफ्स है, प्रीमियम्स, ग्रांट्स एंड सब्सिडीज हैं, लोन्स हैं और टैक्स रिलीफ है। ये 4 मेजर सबसे ज़्यादा अफेक्ट करती हैं। तो ये देखते हैं ये आगे क्या कहते हैं।
Feed-in tariffs, sometimes also called premiums, grants and subsidies, loans, and tax relief. So 4 policy measures will be the focus of our study. Before going to the effectiveness of policy measures, let me first explain one by one each policy instrument. So we got 4 policy instruments. I will start with the first one now, feed-in tariffs. Feed-in tariffs played major role in increasing renewable energy capacity in Europe, particularly in Germany, Spain, and France. Now they are becoming more popular among developing countries. Feed-in tariffs are predetermined tariffs that government commit for purchasing renewable energy by signing fixed-term long-term contracts with renewable energy suppliers. So these tariffs are predetermined, so then they're fixed rather than uncertain, And long-term contracts sometimes could be 15, 20, 25 years. They designed to attract private investments in renewable energy sources by providing government-guaranteed compensation above the electricity price. So these predetermined tariffs usually above the electricity price. By providing feed-in tariffs, governments can promote private investments in renewable energy in two ways. First, it's by setting tariffs, government creates fixed rather than uncertain revenue flow. This reduces the risk in investing in renewable energy. So the revenue flow becomes certain rather than uncertain. And secondly, the tariff set above the price market, so this increases the profitability of the project. So the project becomes more profitable, which increases investments in renewable energy projects. Our next policy instrument, grants and subsidies. Grants and subsidies are another measure that allows government to partially cover the cost of renewable energy technology. Usually it is one-time payment and it reduces the cost of technology. So the government makes technology cheaper for investors. By providing these grants and subsidies, government can reduce the cost of renewable technologies, and which also increases the profits for these projects and will attract more private investments. Next policy measure, loans. What we mean by loans? Loans is a policy measure when loans are provided at low interest rates for financing of renewable energy projects. These lower rates reduce the cost of renewable energy projects and also make projects more profitable. Usually banks are incentivized to provide low interest rates for renewable energy projects if they receive compensation from the government. So government incentivizes more private investments in renewable energy projects when providing lower interest rates. The fourth policy instrument called tax reliefs, or also sometimes called tax credits, also widely used to promote renewable energy deployment. For example, in the United States, production tax credits are commonly used to promote renewable energy, wind energy, and investment tax credits are used for solar energy. These tax credits can be used by companies to reduce deductions from income taxes or corporate taxes in exchange for investments in renewable energy. So far we considered four policy measures: feed-in tariffs, grants and subsidies, loans, and tax relief. As I mentioned before, all policy measures are costly. So we have a question now: which policy instrument encourage private investments in renewable energy? This is the research question for the study which we conducted before. In order to answer our research question, which policy measures are effective in promoting private investments in renewable energy, we use data and we constructed as longitudinal multi-level data. What does it mean? That data vary across 3 levels. So we have data.
सवाल देने के लिए लॉन्गिट्यूडनल मल्टी लेवल डाटा मैंने बनाया कि लेवल 1 किया, कुछ कंट्रीज चूज की हैं, 13 कंट्रीज चूज कर दी हैं, यूरोप की और अपनी ही चूज कर ली है उन्होंने। यूरोप की कर ली है और इसमें चाइना भी है, साउथ कोरिया भी है और जापान भी है और नॉर्थ अमेरिका की, और 6 रिन्यूएबल्स एनर्जीज हैं: सोलर, विंड, बायो, स्मॉल हाइड्रो, जियोथर्मल। और इन्होंने साल 2004 से 2016 का डाटा देख लिया लेवल 3। इसके आगे का डाटा मेरे ख्याल से अब मौजूद होगा, वो भी देख लेंगे बाद में।
Of private investments in renewable energy across 13 countries, including Australia, Brazil, Canada, China, France, Germany, India, Italy, Japan, Korea, Spain, UK, and US. Also, private investment
यहाँ पे इन्होंने पाकिस्तान का नाम नहीं लिया, लेकिन इंडिया का नाम आ गया। और चाइना भी है, साउथ कोरिया भी है, कुछ कंट्रीज, जर्मनी है, ऑस्ट्रेलिया का भी है, एक ब्राजील भी है। साउथ अमेरिका से नॉर्थ अमेरिका की 2 कंट्रीज वो भी आ चुकी हैं, यूके भी है।
Varied not only across countries but also across technologies. Again, we excluded large hydro, so it included solar, wind, bio, ocean energy, small hydro, and geothermal. And also, all these private investments in renewable energy varied across years from 2004.
मुझे ज़्यादा दिलचस्पी सोलर और बायो में है। बाकी में इन्वेस्टमेंट बहुत ज़्यादा चाहिए, लेकिन सोलर और बायो में चाहिए, लेकिन इतनी इन्वेस्टमेंट प्राइवेट वाले भी यानी कि जो घरों पे लगाने के लिए वो कर सकते हैं, लेकिन इनमें बहुत ज़्यादा जगह भी चाहिए और इन्वेस्टमेंट भी काफ़ी चाहिए।
To 2016. Let me summarize. So, private investment data which we had varied across 13 countries, across 6 renewable energy technologies, and across years from 2004 to 2016. That's why it's called longitudinal multi-level data. This table shows which investments in which projects were included in our data. So again, we excluded large hydro, but included geothermal projects larger than 1 megawatt, wind larger than 1 megawatt, small hydropower from 1 to 50 megawatt, marine greater than 1 million liter, and biofuel also greater than 1 million liter. For solar, we included all projects. So for this empirical study, we included several variables. So first variable is a dependent variable, private investments in renewable energy, measured as a share of gross capital formation as percentage. So you can see that this variable varies across from 0 to 73%. Next variable we included government research and development investment in renewable energy, measured in million USD. Fuel price, also measured in US dollar per ton. Also household electricity price. Cost of renewable energy, measured as levelized cost of renewable energy. And policy measures. Policy measures include feed-in tariffs, taxes, loans, grants, and substitute. They take the values 0 or 1. 0 before policy was implemented and 1 after the policy was implemented. You can see that data was collected across different sources and merged into one data set. For example, investments in renewable energy data was obtained from Bloomberg New Energy Finance. Gross capital formation was obtained from the World Bank. Fuel price from British Petroleum, household electricity price from International Energy Agency, cost of renewable energy from Bloomberg New Energy Finance, and the policy measures were taken from database, policy and measures database produced by IEA and IRENA. Before estimating, we performed several tests. These several tests will help us to identify the most suitable strategy for estimation. So first we use Hausman test, which helps us to identify whether we need random intercept or fixed intercept. So you can see that we could not reject null hypothesis, and so we see that we need random intercept rather than fixed intercept. The next test called likelihood ratio test, which helps us to test null hypothesis, which is no random coefficient, versus alternative hypothesis, which is random coefficients. We can see that this test shows that we can reject the null hypothesis, so we will need random coefficients. I highlighted it in bold. Next likelihood ratio test, we need to test whether we need unstructured covariance or we don't need it. So again, we can reject null hypothesis, and the result shows that we need unstructured covariance. So the most preferable model for us will be a model with random intercept, random coefficients, and unstructured covariance. This slide shows our model, which I already said, called random intercept and random coefficient model with unstructured covariances. So the test showed that this is the most suitable model for our longitudinal multi-level data. This model shows which variables, for example, vary across countries, J across countries. Also varies across I, which is renewable energy sources, which I said before, small hydro, bio, marine, geothermal, solar, and wind. And also varies across years, T. As you can see that not all variables vary across all three levels. Some of them vary across only two levels. So our dependent variable Y is private investment, which is measured as a share of renewable energy private investments across fixed capital formation. Mu is a random intercept, which varies across J countries. So in X we included the variables which vary across three levels: government, research and development, demonstration investments, and policy measures, feed-in tariffs, taxes, loans, grants, and subsidies. Other variables, they don't vary across all three dimensions, all three levels. So such as, for example, fuel cost, electricity price, cost of renewables. Using the data which I described before, and the model which was described in the previous slide, now we can show you the results which are summarized in this table. Full results you can find in the working paper which I provided you the link in the reference. However, this table summarizes the main results. So as I said, we wanted to see which policy measures are effective in promoting private investments in renewable energy. So this table shows results. If you're not aware, like the stars indicate significance, statistical significance. The more stars means the greater significance level. So 3 stars means 99% or 1% level of significance, and 2 stars indicate 5%, and 1 star 10% level of significance. So we can, and for comparison, we also gave in columns different models. So although we said that the fifth column, random intercept and random coefficients or structured covariance model is the most preferred, but however, we did also several models just to see for comparison our results. So we found that feed-in tariffs and loans have statistically significant impact on private investment measured as a share in fixed gross capital formation. So we can say that feed-in tariffs and loans have statistically significant impact on promoting private investments. However, we couldn't see this in taxes and grants and substitutes, and even in government research, development, demonstration. Government research, development, and demonstration investment, one of the reasons why it didn't show significance, I think because we need to introduce lags here, because it probably has some lag impact, but for our data, because the period is quite short, so we couldn't introduce lags, enough significant lags. I tried actually several lags, few lags didn't work. It only works when it's a great number of lags. So however, the sample size, the period of years which we use, it's quite short, so we couldn't introduce significant number of lags here. So to summarize, we found that the two policy measures have statistically significant impact on private investments, feed-in tariffs and loans. However, we couldn't find it in taxes and grants and subsidies. We measured the impact of policy measures on the private investments measured as a share in gross fixed capital formation. Now let's summarize our main empirical results. We found that feed-in tariffs, or sometimes called premiums as well, and loans, two policy measures, increase private investments in renewable energy, but we couldn't find a statistically significant impact of government investment in research and development. This is because we couldn't consider lagged effects here due to data limitations, and also we couldn't show statistically significant impact of grants, subsidies, and taxes on private investment. And again, private investment was measured as a share in gross fixed capital formation. We found that two policy measures, feed-in tariffs and loans, was effective in promoting private investments. What are the lessons from this study? What we learned from this empirical research? We learned that government policy instrument could promote private investments in renewable energy. So if governments want to promote, they could use policy measures. Now, among the policy measures which are available, we found 4 policy measures which are popular among countries. They include popular policy measures include feed-in tariffs, grants and subsidies, loans, and tax relief. Among these 4 measures, we found that feed-in tariffs and loans have statistically significant impact on attracting private investments as a share of gross fixed capital formation. So they increase, feed-in tariffs can increase the share of private investments in renewable energy by 0.10 percentage points or by 10 basis points, and loans can increase private investments by 0.18 percentage points or 18 basis points. We couldn't support the effectiveness of grants, subsidies, and taxes in promoting private investments. Now, why is that happened that feed-in tariffs and loans were effective in promoting private investments, and why not grant subsidies and taxes? The difference between these two groups, that feed-in tariffs and loans are, you can call them long-term policies. What does it mean? That it demonstrates government's long-term commitment to support renewable energy projects. For example, once government introduces feed-in tariffs, as I mentioned before, it means long-term contract, and which means commitment of the government to pay, to purchase at determined tariff renewable energy. So the feed-in tariffs are usually long, right? And then loans also could be provided by banks, and also sign the contract for a loan, and loans are also quite long usually. So both feed-in tariffs and loans demonstrate the government's long-term commitment to support renewable energy projects. On another hand, the grant, subsidies, and taxes, they don't require such long-term commitment from the government. So that's why I think the policies which demonstrate government's long-term commitment to support renewable energy projects, they are more effective in attracting private investments than policy measures which don't demonstrate long-term commitment.
अब हम तीसरा जो यूनिट है वो देख लेते हैं। इसकी डिस्क्रिप्शन सबसे पहले पढ़ लेते हैं। Explores renewable energy financing trends across private financing sources such as venture capital and private equity. Yes, open to private capital like capacity investment, research and development funding and public markets. कुछ समझ नहीं आई, गूगल ट्रांसलेट फिर देख लेते हैं. गूगल ट्रांसलेट फिर देख लेते हैं कि क्या कहता है. भाई उर्दू कर दे. यार ये उर्दू किधर चली जाती है. ये रही उर्दू. खुद ही क्या लिखा. प्राइवेट फाइनेंसिंग फरमाई जैसी वेंचर कैपिटल और प्राइवेट इक्विटी में काबिल तजदीद तवानाई की माली आना की रुझानात का पता लगाता है. निजी सरमाए के लिए खुले इलाके जैसी सलाहियत की सरमायाकारी और तहकीक, तरक्याती फंडिंग और अवामी बाजार.
Hello everybody, my name is Ranjita Mishra.
अच्छा, यह क्या नाम रंजीता मिश्रा है. एशियन डेवलपमेंट बैंक इंस्टीट्यूट टोक्यो जापान. हाँ भाई तेरी कमी सी है, इंटरनेट जान दी कमी सी, और कुछ नहीं. एक चीज भी नहीं करनी थी. इंटरनेट ही चला गया. स्कूल में कुछ भी कर दो. सवा एक हो गया ते इंटरनेट चला गया. हाँ जी हम तुसी रुक जाओ.
There are two sources of finance. Renewable energy, public investment and private investment. The public investment mostly comes from the donor country and comprises only around 10% of the total investment. However, private investment accounted for around 87% of the total renewable energy finance between 2013 and 2016. This figure shows that globally, the renewable energy investment has increased over the time. However, in case of Europe, it was very high in 2011 and after that it started slowing down. On the contrary, in case of China, it has increased after 2011. Bloomberg classifies private investment in renewable energy into 6 asset classes. First is venture capital. Venture capital funding for the purpose of expansion by companies. Second is asset finance, financing of renewable energy projects via the balance sheet or financing mechanisms such as syndicate equity from institutional investors or project debt from the. The third is public market. New equity raised on capital or over-the-counter markets by publicly quoted companies in the cleaner energy industry. Fourth is small distributed capacity, which is rooftop solar PV with capacity below 1 megawatt. The third and fourth are government R&D
from institutional investors or project debt from banks.
This figure shows how the different types of private investment supports the different stages of development of renewable energy. And therefore, for the continuity of the development of renewable energy, all types of private investment is required. This figure shows the distribution of asset class in private investment. And we see that among the other in renewable energy by country, we see the similar trend. Not all the countries has full variety of financial resources. The distribution of asset class across technology makes it more clear. For example, solar and wind, we see that it attracts lots of asset finance. However, marine, which is quite new, attracts corporate R&D and government R&D. So the technology is still in the initial stage of development. Therefore, the asset finance is still low. The major takeaways from this unit are as follows. Private investment is the major source of investment in renewable energy globally. The different stages of renewable energy maturity requires different source of financing. Asset financing is the dominant asset class among all the asset classes in source of financing renewable energy. The way forward for policymakers for their country is ensuring full variety of financial resources to keep the renewable energy sector growing through research innovation, scaling up for a cleaner world. Here in ADBI, we are working on identifying various macroeconomic and institutional factors affecting different asset classes for further policy implications. Thank you. Thank you.
Global, thank you. Thank you. Thank you.